Let me now get in Bob Blackman, a man who understands India very well, a man who understands what really the British landscape is all about when it comes to Indian Americans. Thank you so much, Mr. Blackman, for speaking to me on India Global. Let me start by asking you about that letter that has been endorsed by 20 parliamentarians about an airport in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir.
Well, the first thing obviously to say is that the illegal occupation by Pakistan of part of the princely state of Jammu and Kashmir is fundamentally wrong. And I have been calling for a very long time for the Pakistani forces to leave, for the princely state to be reunited under its original aim of being part of India, and then liberating the people from the occupying force. Now, if there were to be an airport in Mirpur, then obviously this would help cement the occupying force and prevent progress towards a settlement whereby the state would be reunited. I think it's a direct insult to India, and indeed it doesn't help Pakistan much either, because from their perspective, this is an area where it is relatively remote and difficult to get to, but nevertheless, this would cause, I think, severe diplomatic tensions between India and Pakistan.
Do you think it's nothing but a blatant effort by Tahir Ali to meddle into India's affairs by asking infrastructure projects in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir?
Yeah, indeed. And I think the problem is in the British Parliament right now is that we have a large number of Kashmiri Muslim MPs who are loyal to Pakistan, who are not loyal in any shape or form to India, and have sought to cause problems between India and Pakistan for quite some time. Equally, I mean, the bizarre thing as well, I don't know if your viewers will know this, but many of those people that signed the letter were opposing the expansion of Heathrow Airport, our hub airport in the west of London, on the grounds of climate change and the climate emergency. So to then be calling for, as I understand it, the British government to be financing this airport in Pakistan is bizarre, to put it mildly.
So then obviously it's not about development, it's about sending a message to India, isn't it? And the Indian origin Hindus who are there as well. What do you think that message is?
Well, I mean, I've been campaigning for many years now for the protection of Hindus in not just in the illegally occupied part of Kashmir by Pakistan, but also in the wider area of Pakistan, because we have challenges right across the piece of all minority religions. It's not just Hindus, it's also Christians, Jews, Buddhists, Sikhs, and other religions that wish to just celebrate their religion in peace, but are not given peace by the Pakistani dominated areas. So from that perspective, what we want to see is far more protection of those minorities rather than what it seems to be more oppression of those minorities.
Birmingham is also facing a lot of civic issues. Tahir Ali has his hands full, but he's chosen to take up this cause. Does this speak about the political or the present political landscape in the UK?
Well, in Birmingham, there is a refuse collectors strike, a binmen strike, if you like, where the rubbish is piling up on the streets and there's a direct health hazard. In fact, it might be that some people might compare it to part of the third world, and indeed it might be that your viewers might take the view of saying that the MP's concern should be concentrating on getting that particular problem fixed rather than concentrating on trying to distract people by looking at events in Pakistan or the illegal area or illegally occupied part of Jammu and Kashmir. Equally, the current Labour government are extremely unpopular in the UK for all sorts of reasons. I mean, they've hit our pensioners on withdrawing the winter fuel allowance. That, of course, has hit the hard-pressed pensioners considerably hard. They've attacked the farmers with inheritance tax issues and removal of farm payments to farmers. Plus, we could go through, a whole raft of things of increases in taxes on companies, increases on taxes in everything that's happening across the piece. And we are now in the UK suffering the highest rates of tax ever experienced in the country. So this is very much a distraction. And equally, I think one of the challenges here is that we shouldn't be, as a country, trying to act as a colonial ruler anymore. We should be acting in cooperation with our friends in India and trying to reach out to Pakistan as well to get things. I'd rather, frankly, they spent their if people want to promote international issues, I'd rather they spent their time promoting trying to rid Pakistan of polio. Polio and Afghanistan are the last two countries in the world where polio is rife. But if we don't actually cure it and conquer it in those two countries, there's a risk it can come back. And of course, it can come back in India, as we know. So if we concentrate on that, that'd be far more valuable for the health of the world.
Indeed, it would be an important observation you made there, sir. But let me now shift gears and ask you another issue that you've spoken about several times, which is a formal apology from the UK for the Jallianwala Bagh massacre. 106th anniversary is round the corner. Do you think Keir Starmer government will come good on an expectation? You're asking for an apology. Do you think we're going to get that?
Well, as you know, on the 13th of April 1919, General Dyer marched his troops into the Bagh and ordered them to open fire, and they fired and fired and fired until they ran out of ammunition. And the only thing that prevented that massacre from being even worse was, of course, he couldn't get his cannons in there, because that would have been the bloodbath would have just been horrendous. It was bad enough anyway. As you quite rightly say, Theresa May, as Prime Minister, made clear this was a stain on British colonial rule in India. And in many ways, many people think that this was the very start of the aim of independence for India from British rule. General Dyer, as we know, was punished in due course, but it took rather a long time. I think it's now time that we gave a formal apologies. I went to the Bagh several years ago now and saw at first hand what it must have been like. I mean, it just beggars belief that innocent families could be enjoying the sun, enjoying the holiday, and then suddenly they're being shot at. No, none of them had arms. No, they weren't armed resistance fighters or anything like that. These were innocent families, and I do think now, after all these years, it's one of those things that we could get a statement from the Foreign Secretary. We hope to. We could get a statement from the Prime Minister, which would be obviously much better and would further India-UK relations. I mean, particularly at a time when we are trying to agree enhanced trade arrangements with India. It makes clear that actually saying some of these things and say, look, okay, this was a dreadful thing. We apologise formally. We can't do anything about it. We weren't around at the time. But the reality is that we can make a proper apology and close that chapter off, because I think it remains one of those points that is very sadly raised on frequent occasions. We'll have a commemoration meeting tomorrow in the UK Parliament, and of course the anniversary is on the 13th of April, when we will be on parliamentary recess. So it is right that we look at this in an earlier stage rather than letting the anniversary pass by.
All right, Mr. Blackman, thank you so much for taking out the time and speaking to me on India Global.